Do you guys know what the best sound in the world is? The sound of iced coffee. Oh my god, I love iced coffee. Hello, my name is France and welcome to my channel. So for today's video, I will actually be starting a reading vlog, and this reading vlog is very specific, not for the genre, but for the series. So the series that I will be reading for this vlog is the Off-Campus series by Elle. So there was a recent release of the Off-Campus series. If you guys aren't familiar, this is a very, very popular series pre-pandemic regarding hockey players, particularly prior university hockey players. The series is actually a 5-book series that was released pre-pandemic, and to be quite honest, this was actually the romance series that kick-started my love for romance books. This is the first ever romance series that I picked up during the pandemic that made me like romance as a genre, or that made me consider romance as a palate cleansing genre. So if you guys didn't know, or if you guys haven't seen my previous reading vlogs, I explained there that I only started really picking up romance books during the pandemic as a palate cleanser. But then I started liking it even more and more, up to a point that I actually was starting to crave for romance books now. So my love for romance books is actually all thanks to this series, the Off-Campus series by Elle. Now, this isn't a new series, but Amazon did release a new, or actually Bloom Books, that's the publishing house, not Amazon, but Bloom Books, actually released new covers for the entire series. So the original ones, I actually didn't like it. I probably would paste it somewhere here. It features like pictures of a girl, or girls, multiple girls, or like half-faced photos of girls, and it just wasn't my vibe. So I never purchased a physical copy of the book. I just read them through Kindle, and I like them. Honestly, they were my entry point to romance books, and they will always have a special place in my heart. So for this reading vlog, I actually want to do a reading vlog of the entire series, since they released a special edition for Bloom Books. As you can see, it's a completely new cover now, and I absolutely love the covers. When I saw them, I immediately bought them, like added to cart and then bought them. Because look at these. These are very different from the original covers. This is The Deal, the first book. This is the Mistake, the second book. And then this is The Score, the third book. Look at that. It's so cute. And then this is The Goal. And then last but not the least, The Legacy. So it features all of them already. So to be quite honest, I actually didn't finish reading all 5 books during the pandemic. I only got to, I think, The Score, if I'm not mistaken, the 3rd book, and then I stopped because I started reading other romance books. I think that was the point when I was reading it. That was the point that I started finding out about Ali Hazelwood, about Emily Henry. So I was starting to expand my understanding of romance books or romance series. So this is quite outdated, honestly. To be quite honest, I loved it. This is my entry point to romance, but while I was reading it, and then reading Emily Henry, and then reading Ali Hazelwood, and then reading all the other romance authors out there, I realized that this is very elementary in like adult romance. Like it's not something bad, but it's also not very innovative. It's very basic for a romance series. But since they have new covers that I absolutely fell in love with, and I bought all the covers, and they even have, look at this, like sprayed edges for all the 5 books. I gave in, I bought all of them, and now I want to do a reading vlog, rereading the first 3 books, and then actually continuing to books 4 and 5, which I never actually read. So this whole reading vlog will just be focused on me rereading this, plus also reading the most recent release. Aside from reading the 5-book series of the Off-Campus set, I will also be reading, by the end of this vlog, the very new release, which is The Graham Effect. So this actually features the child, the kid, the daughter of Hannah and Garrett from the first book. This is the first book, yes. So I will read books 1 to 5 of the Off-Campus series, and then I will read The Graham Effect by the same author, which features the kid of the main characters of the Deal. So it will be like a full circle kind of reading vlog, and I'm so excited for this because, again, this is my entry point to romance. This book is my entry point to romance, and I cannot wait to like find out how or like rediscover. I cannot wait to rediscover how I actually fell in love with romance during the pandemic. So I will start reading this in this vlog. Actually, I don't think I need this to be spoiler free because you guys have probably read these series already, but you guys have probably read these books already, but I will not. I mean, you guys know these are romance books, you know how it ends, but I will probably just give snippets or like commentaries right after each book just to share with you guys what I think about it. Again, I'm already reading this with a view of a more tenured romance reader, meaning I've read other romance books. When I started reading this series, this is like my entry point, so I have no basis on what a good romance book is. And now that I do have, after a couple of years of reading a lot of different romance books, I think my view on this series, or at least the first 5 books, will change. And then I also want to give some thoughts on how I think the first 5 books, the off-campus series, compare to the newest release of Elle Kennedy, which is The Graham Effect. I'm pretty sure this is a much, maybe more mature, maybe this is a more maturely written, my hypothesis, my prediction is that this is a much more maturely written book. Only because, I mean, first and foremost, look at the thickness. Like this is a much thicker book than the first book of the series, and I just don't know, I feel like Elle Kennedy might have matured a little bit more. She might have grown into her reading, or she might have grown into her writing style, so I'm expecting a bit more meat into the romance here, a bit more, okay, that's the wrong word, I'm expecting a bit more like depth, maybe that's the better term, a bit more depth to romance here versus the other 5 books. So again, I have some expectations, I have some predictions on how I think I will feel after reading the books, but yeah, I will catch you up guys once I'm actually reading them. Garrett needs to stop using the word baby. Garrett needs to stop calling Hannah baby because I am at my limit, okay? It was cute at first. It was cute. The banter is amazing. As amazing as I remember it to be. Hannah and Garrett, I love them both. Hannah, I'm surprisingly okay with her, knowing that she has very big pick-me vibes, even from the beginning of the book. I'm okay with her. Honestly, she's okay as a main character. She doesn't give off the ick from the pick-me vibes. It's really, there's a certain sense of self-awareness that Hannah has that sets her, or that exempts her from the pick-me ick. I don't know how to describe it, but she's very much like not the other girls, but also she's very self-aware on who she is, and very I wouldn't say confident, but she knows how she is as a person. She knows that she has a tendency, or she knows that she's smart. She knows that she's good at music, she's good at singing, and that certain kind of self-assurance kind of exempts her from the pick-me ick, if I'm conveying that correctly, right? Garrett, I actually really like Garrett's character also. So again, I read it during the pandemic, literally like 2020, 2021. And now that I'm reading like first 25 pages of it, I can honestly say that I barely remember anything that I read back then. Like, reading this is like reading the book for the first time. Like, that's how intense my forgetfulness is. Like, I honestly cannot tell you what's gonna happen next. I honestly cannot tell you how they'll meet each other again. I honestly cannot remember how they end up becoming, like how Hannah ends up becoming the tutor of Garrett, because I do know it's headed in that direction. Like, again, I'm not reading the synopsis in the back, but I do know that it's heading in that direction. I do know that eventually Hannah will tutor Garrett, and with an exchange, like there's gonna be an exchange of some sort that would force them to be together all the time. That's like the bare minimum of what I remember, but I honestly cannot tell you, and I don't remember how they will get to that point. So honestly, I'm really liking this reading vlog because I thought that I would eventually remember and everything would be kind of like familiar and also redundant in my head, but it's not. It's like I'm reading this book for the first time and I love it. I like it. I like the journey. I like it. It helps that I like both Hannah and Garrett. Like what I mentioned with Hannah, the self-assurance. Like Garrett also, I surprisingly like him. There's also a sense of self-assurance. Like he's a fuckboy. He plays around. He has this tendency to be like one of the guys, like, you know, like boys will be boys mentality, but he is also self-assured with who he is. Like he doesn't try to explain who he is. He just is. And I don't know how to explain it or how to convey it, but it makes their characters more palatable for me because it's not, they're not trying to manipulate anybody else. They're just truly who they are, and they are confident about who they are at the very least. If they're not confident with anything else, they are confident with who they are. So now that I say that, I like both Hannah and Garrett. Now that I'm saying that though, Garrett needs to stop calling Hannah baby, or like even jokingly, okay? It's getting on my nerves. And again, this is like a pet peeve of mine. I mentioned this in my previous reading vlogs, but I really hate it when the male character, or even like the female character, right? If one of the characters call the other one baby, because I don't know, it's just a pet peeve. I really don't like that term of endearment. Like say anything else. Like I'd rather you say honey. I'd rather you say like anything else, honestly, other than baby, because it just irks me. It's just disgusting. For me, again, this is a personal preference. Like I really don't like it, and Garrett needs to stop saying it because it's getting on my nerves. Like, sir, I like you. You don't want me not liking you, okay? At this point, every time he says baby to Hannah, it's deducting points in my head. He's like 100 right now with the amount of usage of baby as a term of endearment. He's like down to like 95 for me. So Garrett, stop it, please stop it. I just really hope he stops saying that, okay? Because by the end of this book, if he continues saying it, he'll probably be down to like 50 or 40 as a character for me, and that's saying something because I actually really like his character, okay? So I just hope Garrett stops saying that. But honestly, so far I'm enjoying this. I really feel like I'm reading this book for the first time, and the experience is so good so far. Hello, so I'm already on page 356 of the deal. So I'm still on the first book of the off-campus series, and oh my god, okay, the way I love these characters, I am obsessed with them so much. Okay, so I got to the part wherein we reached, it's a bit of a spoiler, but I'm sorry, sue me. I got to a part wherein the third act breakup kicks in. I mean, third act breakups are infamous for romance books, and I mean, almost all romance books I've read has third act breakup, so that's not really much of a spoiler. So in this book, the third act breakup was driven by Garrett's dad. So Garrett's dad is a bit of a jerk. He's an asshole basically, and he asks Hannah to break up with Garrett, else he will cut off Garrett, and he will stop paying for Garrett's tuition, for Garrett's everything. Like basically Garrett is living off of his asshole dad's money, and if Hannah doesn't break up with Garrett, then he would cut off Garrett, right? And that would stop his hockey career, which is basically his life. So of course, I mean, as usual, the main character Hannah does this very martyr, very self-sacrificial decision of like breaking up with Garrett without him knowing. But she knows that if she tells Garrett that she wants to break up with him, or that his dad approached her to break up with him, she knows that Garrett will do like a very extreme decision and like tell his dad to screw you, or tell his dad to screw off, and tell his dad to fuck off, and just take the alternative, which is basically not break up with Hannah and just screw the consequences, which Hannah knows he would not be able to survive because hockey was his life, and if he gets cut off, he gets cut off from hockey. So basically that's the third act breakup. She tells him, I want to break up because I want to start seeing other people. We became too we moved too fast. We're already saying I love you, we're so committed with each other, but how do I actually know that there's nobody else better? So that's her excuse. It's just an excuse, right? And at first Garrett was like, what the fuck? And basically like drowns himself in alcohol and all. But then after a few days, he goes to Hannah And he actually tells Hannah, you know what? I've had a few days to think it over, and you don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why you would break up with me with that excuse. You're not even going out with other people. Like, oh, it doesn't make sense. And you know what? It's so fishy. I'm not even gonna take your word for it. I'm not gonna accept this. Fine. Like, we break up, whatever, but I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I don't believe you. I don't believe that you really want to break up with me. So he doesn't get all territorial and all. He doesn't, like, I don't know, like, stop her from seeing other people. But basically what he does is he kind of, whenever he meets with her, or like whenever he sees her, he asks like, so are you meeting up with other people, or are you actually going out with other people? And of course Hannah can't say yes, but she also can't say no, because she knows that if she says no, like what she did or admitted the first time around, he will know the gig will be up. Like, it's not, he already knows it's bullshit. Like, that's all. That's just gonna further validate it. So what ends up happening next is that after he tells Hannah, you know what, this is fishy, this doesn't make sense, you're breaking up with me and not actually going out meeting with other people like what you said you wanted to do, that doesn't make sense. You know, I'm not gonna be like broken up over this, because I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna get to the bottom of why you actually broke up with me. And what he did and what he did is he did like a, okay, I'm gonna read it from here. He invoked a campus-wide hands-off law. What does that mean? Like, every guy that Hannah sees in their campus is basically treating her like she's ill, or like she has a contagious disease. Like, they can't even look at her in the eye, because he's like, hands off, that's my girl. Nobody touches my girl. Nobody goes out with my girl. And I know, okay, I know it's so misogynistic. I know it's like, it's so toxic. I know, okay, but then I don't know. It worked for me. It worked for me. Sue me. One, the power, the influence that Garrett has in this campus to be able to invoke that. Two, oh my god, I don't know why. Garrett is an exception, okay? He's an exception. And I think it goes back to what I was saying before, like, they're the two main characters. Actually, it's not just Garrett, but also Hannah. I would think on paper, like just reading on paper a profile about their characters, I would think that I would hate them, because they're very caricature 2015, 2016 main characters. Like, Hannah, you'd think she's a pick-me from how she's described, and Garrett is, you'd think he's a fuckboy from how he's described, but there's so much more than that. Like, there's self-assurance of who they are. Like, Hannah, she knows that she's smart. She knows that she's good at music. She's like basically a prodigy in music, but she's also smart. But also she's self-assured to the point that she gives whatever she can give. And she's not afraid to take whatever she has to take. Like, for example, she's not a pushover, even though she has this very traumatic event that happened to her. She's very self-assured in a sense that this happened to me. And of course, it's not easy for her to admit the first few times that she mentioned it, right, to Garrett or to other people, that this actually happened to her. But once she did open up, once she trusted people, for example, once she trusted Garrett, she's not afraid to tell him that this happened to me, but I did already work over it. Like, I'm not, this doesn't hinder me. Like, this event happening to me, this doesn't hinder me from moving forward, or this doesn't pull me back from doing other stuff, right? I think it's that self-assurance, is that lack of a certain stereotype in their caricatures that makes me like their characters so much, like for some weird reason. And I know this third act breakup thing, like Garrett invoking a hands-off campus-wide hands-off rule, whatever that is. What is it? Invoking a campus-wide hands-off rule is so misogynistic, and I would normally, okay, like, I confess, I would normally find it icky. That's like a pet peeve of mine. That's so toxic, that's so misogynistic. I usually don't like that in other romance books. Like, the guy basically like hovering over the girl, controlling the choices of the girl. I usually don't like it. But this time around, it's played off like it's funny. I don't know, it's played off well, in a sense that you already know as a reader that Hannah is doing this against her will. Like, she's already doing like a self-sacrifice thing. She actually does not want to break up, right? And usually when third act breakups happen and the person who breaks it off is usually unwilling, what ends up happening is the other person gets like so absorbed with their pain, and the one who broke it off has to like grovel back, right? Like that's usually what happens in romance books. Like the one who self-sacrificed actually has to grovel back at the end of the day, because I mean they shouldn't have been making choices like that in the first place. That's wrong. And I still stand by that. Like Hannah shouldn't be doing that self-sacrificial thing. Shouldn't be like breaking up with Garrett. But what I loved about the whole interaction of Hannah and Garrett, and I think it's still in line with their characters, their dynamic, honestly, is that Garrett gets over the breakup or the pain quickly because he knows Hannah so much that he quickly realizes, wait, this does not make sense. Like, I might be shitty, I might be an hassle, I might be a jerk, but I do know, I am assured enough to know that my girlfriend loves me. And she would not do this because of the specific reason that she told me, which is basically trying or exploring dating other guys, right? That's her whole reason why she wanted to break up with Garrett. And he knows it's out of character for her, and it just goes to show how well they know each other in the book, like how well they know each other in this stage of the book. And I don't know, it just has a certain kind of maturity, but also it plays it off in a funny way. Like he's like, yeah, no, I don't believe you keep on saying that, but it doesn't make sense, so I'm just gonna continue assuming that's not true. Okay, like we're still broken up, we're not together anymore, we're not seeing each other anymore, but yeah, I don't believe that you actually want to break up with me. So unless you tell me or until I find out, yeah, hands off. Like, you're still my girl in my eyes. And I don't know, man. I'm just... Sue me. It's working. It's working. I don't know what kind of drugs Elle Kennedy put in this book, but I'm breezing through it. And I love it so much. Like, again, like what I mentioned in my earlier video, I don't think... It's like, I know I read this during the pandemic. I know I read until the third book. The characters are familiar. The storyline, the plot is familiar. But it's like I'm reading it for the first time again. And I don't know, it's just so good. Like, it's much better than what I remembered it to be. Like, I remembered it to be very immature. I don't know why, but I remembered it like more of a Wattpad vibe. Nothing wrong with Wattpad per se, but there's a certain type of stereotype in Wattpad books wherein there's a lot of immaturity involved. It's not really like built as a published book, so there's still like editing work that needs to be done, right? And a lot of relationship building and mature relationship building that needs to be done. But like I don't remember it being this mature and fun and just overall like not stereotypically romance, not stereotypically rom-com. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I'm so surprised by how much I'm liking this. And maybe it's because I lowered my expectations also. I don't know, but yeah, I'm enjoying this book. I have like a few pages left, maybe like 50 pages left, and so far I'm loving it. I feel like I'm gonna give it upper 4 to 5's range, honestly. I love this. I just want to update you guys. I am putting up my Christmas tree because why not? Because it is already the 13th of December, and I am just now putting it up. And it has 12 days, and it is currently 12 days before Christmas, and 12 days is the lifespan of this Christmas tree, I guess. Anyway, I just want to update you also, guys, that I have already finished books 1 and 2 of the Off-Campus series, so specifically The Deal, this one, and The Mistake. So thoughts. I'll go through The Deal first because I freaking love this book. Okay, I checked my Goodreads actually and checked how I rated it the first time around, and needless to say, I now understand why I rated it 5 stars. I think this book has 2 highlights. One, Garrett and Hannah. They are one of the best, if not the best, characters in a rom-com I've read. I love them both so much, and I love them both individually and together. Like, it's so rare for me to be that way for romance books characters, because usually I would either be super in love with one character but be meh about another. Like, the one person would be really like I don't know, there's something about their characters that in my head, when I read the first few pages of this book, there's something about their characters that I know supposedly they're caricatures. If I haven't mentioned it yet, the deal is about Hannah and Garrett. So Hannah is a music major and Garrett is a hockey player. So they both go to the same university, and it just so happens that for this specific semester they actually enter the same class. So they sign up for the same class, and basically the whole class is failing except for Hannah, our girl. So Hannah, she's a music major, but she's also very, very smart, okay? And Garrett, although he's a hockey player, and stereotypes for hockey players is that usually they get off like with minimal grade requirements. Actually, all varsity players, usually they go off like that. Even back in my university, like, you kind of get a sense that they have like a special consideration for varsity players, right? But for Briar, oh my god, I can't pronounce the university. For Briar University, which is the university that Hannah and Garrett both go to, they don't have special considerations for varsity. So they think that, and rightfully so, they think that varsity should earn their place in the university or in the academy as well. So the varsities actually have to work hard for their grade. So Garrett needs to maintain a certain grade for that specific class in order for him to not be suspended or benched from their games. And it's already their season right now, and he needs to basically keep his grade up for his midterm exam. And the whole class just failed, but the professor gave them a chance to do like a midterm retest for those who failed. And Garrett found out that Hannah is the only one who got an A in their class, so in their midterms. So he basically begs her to like tutor him because he really needs to keep up his grade, or else he'll get benched from playing hockey. And oh my goodness, it's such a simple plot. I would say it's very Wattpad-esque. It's very simple rom-com plot, but the characters are the ones that are driving the story, honestly. Like Hannah and Garrett, both individually and together, are very, very solid characters that you would both root for. Like how I described it in the previous video is that both Hannah and Garrett are very secured in who they are as characters, and that is such like plus points for a romance book. Like they fall into caricatures, but they're very assured to the point that it actually serves the plot and it actually serves their dynamic. Like both Hannah and Garrett are very self-assured, very confident, I would say, people, and their banter is one of a kind. Like Garrett has this tendency to be like a fuckboy or whatever, right? And Hannah has this tendency to be very goody two-shoes, very risk-averse. But their dynamic is that they both give it as good as it gets. Like nobody backs away from, or nobody backs off from the banter. Like Garrett would say something crude, Hannah would say something cruder, and it would still be in character with her. Like whatever she will say will still be in character, but she can fight back whatever Garrett will give her. And it's also the other way around. Like Hannah finds out that Garrett is actually very smart, you know, like he gives off this persona, but then he's also like a very layered person, and he can actually keep up their class. Like it's not his fault that he's failing the class, like all the rest of the class is failing. If he just finds or is given direction, he can actually keep up with the class because he's actually straight A's all else except for that class. So it's just the layers for these characters, their dynamic, their banter, the slow burn. I would say slow burn because you can actually see them falling in love within these chapters, and you can see how they would start liking each other. And when it got to the point that they start saying I love you, you're not surprised because of course they would fall in love with each other with all these banters, with all these events happening in their life, right? So I super duper love this. I rated this 4.5 stars in Goodreads, but I'm not surprised that my previous self rated this. Like, Franz from 2 years ago rated this actually 5 stars because it's so freaking good. Now, moving on though to the next book, which is The Mistake. This book, going from the high of the deal and then going to entering this book, it was such a disappointment. Like I'm sorry, like I still love the deal. This book focuses on Logan and what's her name, Grace. See, I even forgot her name, Logan and Grace. And to be quite honest, Logan was kind of a standout character in the deal, but then in his actual own book, he was such a disappointment. Going from the deal, right? So good. Hannah and Garrett stories is so freaking well done, okay, and well developed, I would say. And then going from here to The Mistake, which is the book 2, which is focused on Logan and Grace. It was such a disappointment, guys. I'm so sorry. I read it so quickly, but it was such a disappointment. Like, do you see the tabs that I put here for the deal? Like, how many tabs I put there? Those are basically like the the parts that I super loved, or that I super relate to, or that I super wish I was in the relationship. And look at the tab that I put for the mistake. Just one freaking tab in this one whole book. Like, granted, this is a much shorter book than the deal. Like, if you see that, it's so much shorter. It's like almost just 2/3 of it. Yeah, it's only until page 300, and the deal is until page, oh no, it's almost the same. Yeah, it's around 400. The deal is around 400, and the mistake is around 300 pages. So it's not that big of a difference, but I honestly think that this book was so underdeveloped. Like, I think the author, I think Elle Kennedy, I don't know, maybe she just wanted to write out another book very quickly after like the fame of the deal, or after like the search for the deal, the popularity of the deal. She wanted to like give out something else to the fans, and Logan was such a solid character in the first book, but in here he was such a disappointment, honestly. And Grace was like what I said about Hannah and Garrett here, how I think they're supposed to be caricatures, but they ended up being very layered characters. It goes the opposite direction for the characters in here. So Logan and Grace, you feel like they should be layered characters, like they have all of these background stories, but then they end up being caricatures, honestly. And then a kicker for this is that I actually don't know how they fell in love. Like, I read the whole book, I read 300 pages, and I still don't know why they fell in love or how they liked each other. Like, that's how underdeveloped the story is, I think, because it was more of a big chunk of this book consists of book montages. That's what I would say. Basically, there are a lot of parts wherein they're supposed to be hanging out, they're supposed to be building the relationship, or like justifying how they actually really vibe with one another. They're actually very compatible, but then it ends up being just pure narration. So in the deal, you can actually read Hannah and Garrett bantering with each other. You actually know what they're talking about, how they're opening up with each other. In the mistake, it's more of like, oh yeah, they went to the movies and they talk about a lot of things about their lives. They started opening up with each other. That's how the narration goes, and you're just like left wondering, like, what did they actually talk about? Like, how did the conversation go? How did the dynamic go? Like, that's not well conveyed in this book. And I don't know if it's because it's a shorter book than the deal, so the author didn't have enough time to like flesh it out, or maybe I just feel like it needed a lot of editing. Even the whole storyline about Logan, and his dad and his family, the ending just threw me for a loop. Like, it was just resolved very quickly in a snap, and I just felt weirded out by it, honestly. And I would say actually that this book is very much like this book. So when I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, why is it like Sophie and Liam again from Collided? Because I have the exact same feelings for these books. Like, both the characters, they're nobody. Like, both the characters, I didn't root for any of them. Like, I didn't feel connected with any of them. I didn't get invested in what's happening with them. There was no relationship building. There was a lot of book montages. I actually don't know how they fell in love or how they like each other. Like, it's still a mystery for me. And I don't know why. I just didn't feel the rom-com vibe for this one. So I think I would rate this also at 2.5 to 3 stars. And I feel bad because this is such a good book, and I feel like it was how this underdeveloped story was just highlighted because of how good the book I previously read is. But anyway, that's my assessment of it. And I will now be moving on to the score by Elle Kennedy. And I'm already a few pages in actually, and I think I would like this book, honestly. The things that I was missing from The Mistake, the things that I was missing from Logan and Grace here, like their character, like having layered characters, being able to actually read the dynamic, the banters, and both characters giving it as good as they get. Like, they're caricatures, yes, but they're very secure as well as of who they are. I am getting that from the first few pages here. It's very much like the deal, I would say, and I'm so excited. It's about Elle and Dean, and they're very dynamic characters. Like, Elle is Hannah's best friend from the deal, so she's actually featured a lot here. So Elle is Hannah's best friend, and Dean is one of the other hockey players, and he's actually more of like the biggest fuckboy in their group. So he's unapologetically fuckboy. Like he knows he fucks around a lot. A lot of people have called him out on it, and he's like, yeah, I fuck around a lot. I fuck around different girls. They know what they're getting from me, and I know what they're getting from them. What's wrong with that? And that's his attitude, right? And then Elle is a very committed person. So she was actually with another guy in the deal. Like, she has a very serious boyfriend who she has been with since first year in college, and I think they're already in third year or fourth year, and and they basically broke up like for good this time, because they've been on and off throughout the years, like as narrated here. And now we see the dynamics of Elle and Dean, because one night Elle had to stay in the off-campus house, or in the hockey player's house, because she's hiding from her ex-boyfriend, and Dean was the only person there. And their dynamic in the scene, so good, so freaking good. Like, you can actually see how they clash, but also how they would meld so well together. So I'm so excited for this. I feel like I would pretty much finish this by the end of the day, and then I'll let you guys know what I think. Oh my freaking god. So remember when I said that I finished the mistake this afternoon, and I was gonna go on and read the score, and I feel like I will probably finish it by the end of the day. Well, I kept that promise. I finished the score. Sorry, not the goal, the score. And holy shit, this is so good. Like, I don't know what happened with the mistake with the second book that I didn't like, but this one, oh my god. It's so good. It's so good. It's as good as the deal, I think. I think what really sets this apart for me, and what really drives this book, is Elle and Dean. Like, their characters. I said I love Garrett and Hannah, and I stand by it. Now now I'm thinking, do I love Elle and Dean more than I love Hannah and Garrett? Because, oh my god, their characters here, not only are they secure, not only are they self-assured, not only are they confident with who they are, like, they're just so unapologetic about it. Like, so the score, the third book in the off-campus series, is about Elle and Dean. So Elle is Hannah's best friend. Hannah is the main character in the first book. So she's Hannah's best friend. She's a drama major, and she just recently broke up with a long-term boyfriend. And then Dean, on the other hand, is another one of Garrett's roommates, also a hockey player. He's very privileged in a sense that he grew up with a very rich family, and a very loving family, actually. And he just has this life of Dean mentality, wherein he says whatever he wants to do, he will do. Like, no matter what happens, no matter what the consequences are, if he wants to do it, he will do it. He has that, like, fuck all, doesn't matter what happens kind of mentality. And he's actually a literal fuckboy at the beginning of this book, and even from the first two books. Like, you see mentions of him fucking around different girls and having no strings attached relationships with different girls. And with this book, though, it's not that he changes, really. There's no shift in the perspective of Elle and Dean. There's no shift in personality for Elle and Dean. And I think that's what I love the most about this book. Like, they came in as this people, and they're fine with it. They're fine with who they are. And it's more of now finding a way, like, figuring out who they are as people and figuring out their lives together. And I love that. I don't know how to explain it, but the main plot of this book is basically, she's it's a whole commitment phobe guy and a nester girl, or a very committed relationship kind of girl situation, and you throw them in together, and they have this deal, quote unquote deal, wherein they will just have no strings attached relationship. And of course, lo and behold, they end up falling for each other. And I don't know, it's just, again, it's a simple plot. It's very much like the deal. It's a very simple plot, but what the driving force of this book is really Elle and Dean's personality, because I just love them. I just love them together. I just love how confident they are with themselves and with each other. And I actually like how the book was resolved. Like, there's this whole third act breakup, and again, it also happened in the deal. There's this whole third act breakup, and I actually really like how Elle Kennedy is pulling off these third act breakups, at least for the deal and the score. I really fucking hated the mistake. I'm so sorry. I loved Logan as a character. Grace, I don't care much about her, but then that whole book just needed some good old editing. Like, literally, it could have done with a few more passes. Like, there's nothing with the plot, there's nothing fulfilling about the characters. There's really just nothing with that. But this made me fallen in love again. This is very much like the deal with how it blew me away. I didn't have any tabs here, but only because I breezed through it. I read this in like 3 hours because I wanted to know what's gonna happen with Ali and Dean. I wanted to know what's gonna happen with their story. I wanted to know how it's gonna end, and it ended with a fucking bang. Like literally, the ending wasn't even about them, but it's just so funny and it's just so hilarious that they ended up in that situation. I was like, oh my god, that's so them. So I love this so much. I gave it a 4.5 stars. Also, I'm still debating whether I should rate it the same or a bit lower than the deal, because definitely the deal is still the best for me out of the 3 books so far. Like this one is a very close second, and I don't know if in my head I rate this actually at par with the deal, because the deal has this certain, okay, the only reason why I'm ranking the deal higher than the score is because although I like Ali and Dean's characters more than Hannah and Garrett's, Hannah and Garrett's dynamic and chemistry is just on a different level. And I say that even like reading the rest of the books, like even reading not just, I'm saying that coming from not just the deal but also their cameos from the mistake, their cameos from the score, because Hannah and Garrett's dynamic, Hannah and Garrett's like tension and chemistry, they just take the spotlight every time they're mentioned in the page, or every time a cameo of them comes in. Like you just end up focusing on them, you just end up squealing over them, even though the other 2 main characters are. And it ends up happening a couple of times in this book. Like there are a couple of times where in the main character, either just Ali or both Dean and Ali are with Hannah and Garrett, and they kind of talk together or like hang out with each other, and you just there are moments wherein I forgot this is an Ali and Dean book. Nothing against them, again, I love them so much, but I forget that this is an Ali and Dean's book because Hannah and Garrett is in the scene, and I'm very fixated on them. I'm very fixated on their chemistry. I'm very fixated on their banter, and I think that's the reason. That's mostly the reason why I would still rate the deal higher than the score, because Hannah and Garrett's relationship just transcends their own book. I'm sorry, like that's how I would say it. I mean, even to the point that there are sometimes Logan and Grace cameos here, so basically from the second book, the main characters from the second book, and I didn't care much about them. That's how I know it's really about the characters and the imprint they left on me. It's really about their dynamics. It's really about the tension that they have, and I love Ali and Dean, but Hannah and Garrett is still top tier for me. So the way I would rank it is the deal is still number 1, number 2 is the score, and then number 3, and probably I'll push it down even further once I read the rest of the book, because I really just don't like it. And the last place as of now is The Mistake. So Hannah and Garrett still top tier, Ali and Dean the second couple for me, and then just bottom for me is Logan and Grace. I really just did not care for them. But anyway, since I'm done with the 3rd book, I will actually want to continue. I actually want to continue reading the next one, because if you guys have read this book, you know that this ended with a cliffhanger that is connected to the story of this book. So this book is going to be focused on Tucker and Sabrina. So Tucker is the other hockey player in the off-campus group, or in the off-campus I don't know how to call them, yeah, group, maybe friends. Yeah, so he's also roommates with Logan, Dean, and Garrett, and he's mentioned a lot of times throughout the first 3 books. Actually, he has a lot of like scenes in the first few ones. He's really close to the guys. He's also a hockey player, and I'm just gonna spoil it for you because you're actually gonna be able to see the synopsis anyway. But yeah, for the whole time in the score, Tucker is actually very, very AWOL. He's MIA, missing in action. They're most of the time, like Logan, Garrett, and Dean are left wondering, where the fuck is Tucker? Like, why is Tucker not coming home? Where is he staying at? Does he have a new girl? And that question was answered in the last page of the score, which is literally the finale. The ending of this book is Tucker revealing that he got somebody pregnant, and that will be the main story of the goal of this book. And the story will revolve around Tucker again, a hockey player. He got somebody pregnant, and that somebody is actually Sabrina. So Sabrina was mentioned a couple of times in the score. Actually, to be quite honest, when they mentioned Sabrina in the ending scene here, I was like, who the fuck is Sabrina? Like, there's so many characters in these books, honestly. But then I figured it out. Sabrina is actually like kind of like a rival of Dean's. So she's a pol sci major, and Dean mentions her a couple of times because Dean because they have like this rift, they have this rivalry, because Dean, as I mentioned, he's very privileged, like he has everything handed to him on a silver platter, rich family, loving family. He breezes through college because he's naturally gifted also and naturally smart. And Sabrina is kind of like his rival, also a pol sci major, and there's this whole backstory about them wherein she thinks that basically life is unfair, and Dean was handed like a very high grade in the same class that she's taking, only because he's like doing something with the TA of that class. So it's a very it's not a baseless rivalry. Like there's actual hatred in there, and she actually does not like Dean for a good reason, I think. Okay, yeah, privileged people can like just not be. I just don't. I also don't like privileged people, so there's that. But yeah, so she's the way I'm sensing from her few cameos in the score is that Sabrina is a very hardworking, very down to earth girl, and she doesn't like, she takes everything seriously. I read like a page from this just like as a preview, and I'm sensing that it has a lot to do with her family background. Like she's not very well off, and it looks like her family background is also not very good. She has to work hard in order to achieve where she wants to be, and I feel like that's setting up a really good starting story, knowing that in the ending of this score, Tucker gets her pregnant. So I'm really excited, and I'm quite curious how the story will take off, because I usually don't like pregnancy tropes, but let's see if this is gonna be endearing enough, because I actually do like Tucker, and Sabrina's character really interests me. Like I really like her, like I like those kinds of girl characters in books wherein they have a tough life, but they don't let that bring them down. Like they're hardworking, they work hard, they know what they want, and they work hard for what they want. And I feel like that's the kind of character Sabrina is. So I'm really excited where this is gonna take us, and I'm just gonna update you guys. I feel like this is also gonna be a breeze, but also it's like 12 midnight, and I also have work in a few hours. I need to wake up at 6 a.m. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to finish this immediately, but I will update you guys once I do. I finished all 6 books. From the deal until the Graham Effect, I finished all of the 5 off-campus series and the new book from Elle Kennedy, and I'm so proud of myself. I pushed through. And I don't know, it wasn't a very hard challenge at all, guys. It was very easy for me to finish all of these books in like a week, because it was that, I wouldn't say good. I mean, it is good, not all of them per se, but I would say they're all very fast reads. So what I want to do now is I want to rank all of these books from least to best based on my experience reading them. Sorry, I have to cut the video short here since it's too long already, but please stay tuned for the next part where I actually do rank all these books. Thank you!